Well, we're pushing 12 o'clock. I'm going to give it one more minute here, see if anybody else pops online, and then we'll go from there and just start right in.
Okay. Yeah, well, you let me know whenever we want to go.
All right. I'm going to give it another minute or two, see if we get anybody else to pop online. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to be with us at Carroll High School. We're very excited to see what you have to say and learn more about what you do and your experiences up until this point. So I'm going to take it away. Tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Nick Begley. Went to Carroll High School, a 2004 Carroll graduate. And then just to give you a little brief snapshot, which we'll obviously touch on a little more, I actually ended up going to Ohio State University, the fall after my graduation, and ended up graduating with a degree in economics in 2008 from Ohio State. So to be quite honest, I knew when I left Carroll, or when I was in Carroll, I always had a business mindset and wanted to kind of go into any form of business, honestly. And I really thought, just in a picturesque world, really thought I was going to go into some type of finance or accounting role. And that's kind of what led me to economics. But I tried a few different things once I get to Ohio State, and I was really still unsure. And honestly, I dived into hospitality management, right? Managing hotels and restaurants, just general business, right? Where maybe the finance, the accounting was going to come into place. And then eventually about 2 years in till I really drilled down that I was going to do economics. And honestly, the purpose of that for me at the time was I really kind of had this weird interest into banking and thought I was going to go into that. And I just knew economics was going to give me that broad, outlook, and I could take some experiences upon college that could, hopefully build upon that and put me into the economics or banking industry at the time. Unfortunately, when I graduated in 2008, the banking industry collapsed, right? So the jobs were going away and they were few and far between. So that was a big problem. So to give you a little brief story, like I said, which we'll touch on here in a minute, I decided I wanted to do it in a management role and ended up working for an oil company, retail gasoline company that had roughly 1,000 stores across the country. And so I managed a part of their management training program, and eventually went into being a district manager, and then eventually led me to ArcBest 2 years after that, into my current role, which I've been in for 10 years, and that's the supply chain and logistics industry. So right now, yes, I'm currently employed by ArcBest. And I don't know, Julie, if you want me to go ahead and just give you a little insight into the company and kind of what I do first, and then we can kind of go back and touch on some of the, just the specifics about what I've done and my career path I've taken.
Yes, that sounds perfect.
Okay. So the second slide here is I just want to tell you kind of currently the company I've been with. I joined in 2011. So I've worked with basically two companies since I've graduated. Just hit my 10-year mark. And the company that I joined, like I said, in the logistics industry, they've been around since 1923. And they really started as ABF Freight, which you guys may be familiar with, seeing trucks going up and down the road. Really started as a kind of an LTL / which means as a less than truckload carrier, right? So anything that, you buy, whether it's a treadmill or something that's just larger, companies that are transporting things that are bigger than the typical FedEx or UPS could haul, that's where the less than truckload market comes in. And so that's where our roots have really established from. But since I've joined the company over the past 10 years, we've really transformed into a much bigger thing here, right? We want to be kind of a one-stop shop for customers. And really have taken an adaptive approach so we can be around another 100 years. And we realized that we just couldn't do that just being an LTL carrier. We needed to diversify our portfolio. And so now we take on almost as a consulting approach that we can do, anything from less than truckload shipment moves on our assets, right, with our actual trucks that we own, to, truckload brokerage, to supply chain optimizations, managed transportation, just managing a company's transportation, right? So there's a lot of companies out there like Amazon and Target and things like that outsource their logistics to other companies, or they partner with them as a consultant to help them manage their supply chain. And that's kind of what I get involved with. So again, the company I work with has 13,000 employees across the country. And actually that's also into Mexico and Canada Canada as well. And we have some partner offices in China that also helps with the importing and exporting. So $3 billion company, and that wasn't back in 2019. We've past 2 years, we've kind of still hit that mark, and we're really trying to rapidly grow that even more. We're going to probably see us push closer to the 5 billion here, in the coming years. So again, just to kind of give you a quick snapshot, if you see the screen, this just kind of gives you a breakdown of some of the things that we do for customers, right? Whether they have truckload needs, expedite, which is through our Panther brand, LTL freight, which we can move through our assets on ABF freight, or we also partner with other carriers that you might see going up and down the road, like R&L carriers or Dayton Freight. So really, again, we work from a wide array of customers. That could be from basically from, a mom and pop machine shop that's locally there in Dayton, or it could be somebody like Amazon or anything in between. So, one of the big things that, one of the large customers that I work with up here is a large pizza chain that you guys are probably very familiar with that I partner with. And I actually help them move and open all of their stores across their country. And as they open up new stores, they need, they need ovens, they need the prep tables, they need the cash registers, right? So all that stuff has to be moved somehow, some way. And that's what we kind of help kind of coordinate behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people just don't realize what kind of goes on into, product being in businesses, right? Whether it's your retail goods that you're buying or just the tables at the stores, everything has to move somewhere by, land, sea, air, truck, any form or fashion. So again, that's what we really do. And again, I'm kind of in a sales approach now where I work as, I have 11 people underneath me, 11 account managers that also sell. And right now I'm currently over the whole state of Michigan. And I've also got Northwest Ohio, part of Central Ohio too. And I've got 11 employees underneath me that go out and sell, right? And so I help coach them and work through larger deals to kind of progress and just help customers to really be customer obsessed and to help them fix their supply chain. So honestly, never thought I would get into sales. But at the same time, it's kind of weird for me because as we'll get into later on, is I've had so many different things sales, but I'm more of kind of, again, a coach or a consultant, and we don't have to be those salesy type personalities. We're here to help, right, and to manage their processes. So honestly, I've found a lot of enjoyment with that. And just moving on to the next slide, just to give you a couple, and I won't touch on these too long, but the company that I work with, obviously we have 240 service centers across the US, 27,000 owned and operated assets. Again, 100 years of experience. We cover 98% of the US direct with our own assets or either with partners as well. And then finally, this will be kind of just the last piece that I'll touch on just about my company, right? Because every company has a strategy and you like goals. And really, we want to be a leading logistics company out there, right? It's a $300 billion market and there's such a large share to go after. And really, we want to have a set of employees that are creative problem solvers, right? That we can deliver integrated solutions to their needs. So we've also had kind of the motto, we're going to find a way, right? No matter what I do, when I go into a sales call with a customer or just talking to them about their supply chain, I just know in the back of my mind that, anything they got, any problem or solution or any issue that they have, we're going to find a way to do it. So empowers us to kind of be creative in our mindset. And that's especially in this new world. With the pandemic and everything else going on, it's important to be adaptive and to be creative with anything you do, any type of job. It's just going to help, build you as an employee, but also as your company, because if you don't change and you don't adapt, you're going to get left behind, right? And you see that a lot of times with customers. I mean, you look at companies like Blockbuster who were fantastic 20 years ago, but they just didn't adapt to the changing technology and things like that. So they didn't see Netflix as being a threat. And unfortunately, that was the case. So you just got to have an open mindset. And that's again, where, we've started as an LTL carrier, but we've changed and adapt. And again, that's our goal, is to hopefully stay around for another 100 years. So that's just a little touch on currently, the company that I work with and what I kind of do to a very small extent in my current role. But what I'll do too is, if you're ready, I think I'll just give you guys a quick timeline again, just to kind of recap that as far as like my history and what I've done since I've graduated from Carroll, right? So Again, just to recap the Ohio State part, yeah, went on to Ohio State. Really, I found that I didn't really know, and I think that's a lot for especially people in high school. I think you really have maybe this picturesque idea of what you want to do, but you're not 100% right. So I can only say and suggest to really get involved, right? And it's got to be the extracurricular activities, right? And job shadow, do things like that that are going to help you really understand and find your passion about what you want to do in life, because your career path is going to be extremely important. And I kind of stumbled across the logistics industry after one job, but it's turned into a passion for me, and I enjoy what I do on a daily basis. And I think that's the most important thing, that for somebody in high school, that as you're going into college, you really got to find what you're actually going to do and look at each role and really determine if that's what is that what you want to do on a daily basis. So again, once I graduated high school, I actually went to work for an oil company, and what's unique is both companies that I've worked for, I actually went into a management training program, and I highly suggest these for people that are going into the business field. It really makes you an adaptive. Companies really take pride in their management trainee, employees, because at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're taking, it was the same for Murphy USA and for ArcBest. They're taking us, right out of college. They're kind of molding you into the employee that you want to be, right? And they put a lot of money into it. With Murphy and ArcBest, I spent, probably 6 months to a year in each of those companies. And my first year was really just to learn. And they paid me to sit back and to rotate around with different various departments and groups, whether it was operations, sales, just clerical work, customer service, all sorts of things to get involved with and really kind of get you a big picture. And then naturally you're going to be, a frontline manager or leader within that company as your first position. And that's what happened with Murphy, right? My first position was just a store manager of a gas station. Doesn't seem picturesque, but that wasn't my long-term goal, and that wasn't my company's long-term goal at the time, right? So the idea is to get experience, learn from the ground up, and then to build yourself into a future leader that you can go on and take higher leadership roles to really help the company grow and to grow you personally too. So again, with Murphy, I went into a management training program as a store manager in Fremont, Michigan for a year. Kind of cool. After, in between that and my next position, I actually got to spend 6 months in El Dorado, Arkansas. Just again, kind of learning, shifting around to different departments. I got to go on a customer service tour for probably a month and just travel the U.S. on a bus and thanking customers and do fun things like that. So eventually led me to actually Midland, Texas. And at the time I had six gas stations that I managed through West Texas, and loved the job, loved what I was doing. It was just a unique time. I was 24 years old at the time, and I was working 60 hours a week, and found that I just, didn't like being 24 hours from home. So I eventually went back and had some connections with some people at ABF Freight at the time, which is obviously ArcBest, and interviewed for a management training role with them. And so I packed my bags, moved back to Ohio, and shortly started in Cleveland, Ohio. After that, spent five months there in their management training program. And then, going into that, I really had this goal of just being an operations person, right? I really wanted to be strictly managing large service centers. And so to do that, when you go through the management training program, you can either gear towards operations and sales. And my idea at the time was really, again, I wanted to be in operations. So I took a supervisor role in Detroit, and all that was just basically managing, local pickup and delivery drivers, right? If you think about it in terms of FedEx or UPS, when they go out and make those deliveries every day, somebody's kind of managing that process behind the scenes. And that's what I did for ABF for about a year. Eventually went into sales for a couple of years. Did a regional training specialist. I love coaching, training people. I enjoyed that for a year down in Cincinnati. Got to travel around quite a bit. And then, the next career path after that was really kind of the foundation of really where I wanted to go. And that was to be a service center manager. So I moved to Youngstown, Ohio for 2.5 years. And again, doesn't seem glorious moving to some of the locations I've named, but it was one of those things, hey, Youngstown's kind of a smaller service center, and I wanted to go get my feet wet and do that. So I moved, and I was adaptive, knowing that the end goal is if I did a good job, I didn't have to be there in 2 years. I could go off and, either manage a larger service center in Columbus, Ohio, or Dayton or Cincinnati. And career path just took me in a totally different direction. It led me into being a district sales manager, which I am now. Been there for 3 years now. So it's been exciting. I've gotten to, if you look at the timeline, I've obviously moved in, across the country, and mostly I've pretty much lived in every city in Ohio at this point. And now, I've spent 3 different times in Michigan as well. So again, love what I do. I'm a currently a district sales manager that manages 11 employees across, all of Michigan and Northwest Central Ohio, and really, really enjoy what I'm doing. So looking forward to just kind of talking to you guys about questions, things that you guys want to just learn about with this type of, Q&A type session.
Have you been working from home then?
Yeah, I have. It was interesting. I mean, as soon as COVID started, we immediately, especially me being kind of in a sales role. Yeah, we started working from home, and it was kind of unique because I had quite a heavy travel schedule right up until that point. And so I've got 2 little kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. So in a weird way, I feel like I'm working more hours here in my basement, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to be able to go up and see them and not have hotel stays and things like that right now. So
absolutely,
timing has been uniquely good for me personally.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Even my company, we're based out of Arkansas, and we've obviously got operations service centers, 240 across the country. But obviously all of our operations people are there. But we built this brand new multi-million-dollar facility down in Arkansas a couple years ago to kind of expand, and now it's like almost an empty, vacant building, right? So
right.
It's kind of just weird year. We'll see how things change though.
Yeah,
I think probably in about a year.
Yeah, I think technology has allowed people to fully realize that you can still get the job done further away in most cases. But still, the overhead of having business, actual business front, I think that will change in the near future.
Yep. Yeah.
We're going to go back to high school. So if you can remember going back to high school, were there any classes or teachers specifically at Carroll that really kind of set you on this path? Was there anything that you took that you would recommend to somebody else who's looking at sales or management, any courses that you think Carroll had that could help them?
Yeah, had a lot of great teachers. I don't know that anybody at the time really kind of pushed me in the business. I think it was just a personal drive for me. So I did take a personal finance class, right? Really highly enjoyed that. Got to go to New York City on a trip at the time. I don't know if you guys still do that, but that was extremely exciting. The other thing I would also say that I highly suggest is public speaking. And Mr. Sableski, who has since retired a long time ago, had taught that at the time, and very good class. I mean, it was one of those things that I think a lot of people are terrified of public speaking, and including myself. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but the big motto I've kind of taken, since Carroll and through college and obviously in my new roles is you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So if you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, it allows you to challenge yourself, and that's, doing that goes a long way. And no matter what you do, I mean, no matter what industry you go into, talking, communicating, collaborating, working with others is a big thing, right? And some of that does kind of just, incorporate public speaking to a certain extent. So highly recommend those, especially just from my side of the interest in business.
That's awesome. Actually, Zach is taking both personal finance and public speaking next year. So I was like, Perfect. Hey, you're taking those classes.
Yep. No, they're great classes. I don't know why those 2 stick out. I mean,
well, they must for a good purpose. So that's awesome to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if they still do the New York City trip with the personal finance class, but I tell you what, it was well worth it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know if they do that or not. That'll be definitely something to look into next year. Hopefully, we'll push past the pandemic timeframe and everybody's a little bit more comfortable going and traveling, but definitely, I think that would be awesome. I know he would like that.
Yeah, it's cool to see the stock exchange and things like that. And that's just really what drew my interest, right? Seeing a lot of that type of stuff. So.
Absolutely. When you were at Carroll, was there a favorite memory or something that you guys did besides the New York trip, obviously, that you really enjoyed, that you also really took with you when you left Carroll?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, you learn a lot, right? And I think really when it comes down to it, when I was at Carroll, it's the people, right? I mean, you build some really good, strong relationships that I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the call that just, it lasts a lifetime, right? I mean, even in Michigan, I've got some people that I went to Carroll with that we still stay connected and our families get together. And, I find that to be the most important thing is, right, at the end of the day, whether it's business or just personal life, people are the most important thing. So, and I found that to be extremely important. And there's a lot of great memories and relationships. I played, did a lot of different sports, football probably being the most primary, and truly enjoyed. I think it goes back to just getting involved in extracurricular activities, right? Because school, it's good to learn the foundations, but actually having a sense of teamwork and things like that, and be able to work with other individuals of all various backgrounds and different things like that, that's extremely helpful. And you kind of take it for granted in high school, but those things kind of come back later on, and you realize the importance of those things.
Absolutely. Um, Going from Carroll to Ohio State, um, how did Carroll prepare you well for that next step, that college step?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, I would consider myself extremely successful at Carroll. I mean, I got really good grades. I was involved, right? Kept my head on straight. It does prepare you, and it depends which route you go, right? You could go to an Ohio State, or you could go to a smaller university. And I think both have different types of atmospheres. For me, I can tell you, Ohio State challenged me, and there were some challenging times. It was very different because when you go to college, you don't have anybody there to wake you up every day and to go to class, right? And I don't personally struggle from that, but there's an aspect of, yes, there may be 50,000 students at Ohio State. There is a lot of people, but there's ways to connect, right? And to get involved with different things to make it a lot smaller. And so I just urge people, no matter where you go, you got to get involved, right? I think that helps you go a long way, and just helps, build relationships and small projects for classes and things like that. Because if you don't get involved with smaller groups, you kind of get lost in the weeds, right? And it's kind of hard to make that mark on you as you try to enter the career market as you get closer to graduation in college. So
Absolutely.
hopefully that helps.
Yeah. How did you choose Ohio State? When you went on your college tours, was it something about Ohio State that stuck out for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of legacy there. My stepdad had gone there, had just been around Ohio State quite a bit. To be honest, I really thought I was going to go to the University of Dayton. I just kind of saw that as the next step, in the Catholic, education process. There was some familiarity there. I would say probably 25% of my class, I think, was going to UD at one point. So there was just a large group of people that were going there. And I felt really comfortable with that process. And I wanted to challenge myself a little bit, kind of step outside my box, even though I really stayed connected with a lot of people from Carroll while I was there. But it came down to kind of cost. Unfortunately, you have to evaluate that. Some things are going to work, some schools are going to work for some people and some aren't. So, and at the time, I just determined that there was just a little bit of uncertainty with the cost difference between both of them at the time, and that made a kind of a big impact on what I went to. So
I understand that completely. Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Back when I started college, I actually did 2 years at Sinclair first. So the cost definitely played a role into that.
Yeah.
Going into your current career, can you tell us a little bit about your work-life balance? Do you have that, especially during the pandemic? I know you have 2 very young children and you are married. So how do you kind of balance all of that along with your job? And I know we spoke earlier that outside of the pandemic, you probably would be traveling a lot. So how does that all play in together? And how do you make sure that you take the time for what's important in your life?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that is a challenge, and that's something people have to look at as you get into college and really what career path you're going to take, because different careers have different work-life balances, right? And some people manage that better than others. For me personally, I mean, I started dating my current wife in high school or in college, and we didn't really get married till about 5 years ago. So there was probably 7, 8 years where she stuck by me, and through all those moves, And I can tell you, for me, I didn't have a good work-life balance for the first 6, 7 years. I mean, like I said, in a couple of my roles, I mean, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. You picture going to college and you think of this perfect 8 to 5 job, Monday through Friday. And yes, there is a lot of those positions out there, but unfortunately, I kind of did it the hard way, right? I wanted to work from the ground up and build myself within a company. And so I kind of did whatever it took. And that, again, sometimes it involved working nights, holidays, weekends. And I finally got to the point in my career where I've got myself in a position where I don't have to do that anymore, right? And I feel more comfortable in my role. I've gotten better and developed my leadership skills to where, yes, I do have long days, but Monday through Friday, I'm going to work and I shut it off on the weekend, right? So you got to learn to manage that, especially in this pandemic. And right now, yeah, typically I would be traveling quite a bit and on the road, but right now I'm working from home. So I still got to keep a structured day of, hey, let's start the day at, 7:30. And I try to, I could work to probably 7 o'clock every night, but I really try to find a way to shut it off because, there's just jobs you just can't get to everything in a day. So you got to focus on the big things that you can accomplish and really try to tackle. And so time management is a big thing and the work-life balance. So.
I think to kind of wrap things up, I wanted to ask about your time at Carroll, and if there is something that you take with you today in your everyday life that you picked up at Carroll, or having been part of that community. And certainly, if you guys had the opportunity to make the same choice for your children in the future, would you make a similar choice to go to a private Catholic school?
Yeah, absolutely. My class 2004, we're extremely close. And I talk about everybody, right? I mean, I don't think anybody really thought of themselves as better than anybody else. And sometimes you get some of that stuff going on in high school, right? And at the end of the day, I think everybody really, it was just the culture at Carroll, and every class had their own little thing. And I feel like our culture with my class was extremely strong. We really could pick each other up when we were down and encourage them when we need to. And we had a lot of fun just kind of growing up together, and a lot of different aspects, especially with the Catholic education. And so, I've had a lot of friends that have had kids, and some have chose to kind of take their kids in that same career path or not career path, but school path of going to the Catholic education, and some haven't, right? And there's not, I've gotten more broad in my understanding or thought process on it. There's nothing wrong with going in a different direction, but I strongly see the value in having the Catholic school education, and it means something to me, right? So that is important, and I do plan to allow my kids to go into that type of atmosphere growing up as well when they start school here in a few years.
That's amazing. Thank you again so much for taking your time with us today. I'm going to make sure that we post your slides online along with this video, so everybody can have a chance to go back and look at all of that. And again, I can't say thank you enough. I think it's so important for alumni to be able to tell their story and to be able to change the life of a student at Carroll, or get them to think outside of the box and think about something else that they would like to do. So again, thank you again for your time. And for being so flexible with your schedule today as well. We really appreciate that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And is there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave everybody with?
No, yeah, I thank you and appreciate it as well. And, more than happy if you guys ever just want to have questions, regarding your college experience, just thoughts, or, want to run something by me, just looking for a mentor to ask questions. I mean, feel free, right? Either from a college standpoint or just a career path standpoint, I'm more than willing to help. I can share my personal email address or cell phone number to anybody there as well. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you again so very much.